When Primal Hunt was first announced, my heart sank a little. Not because of the game itself, but because of who was making it. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a big fan of Phaselock, but the announcement of this new Dino Hunter crushed my dreams of seeing a surprise announcement of a quest port of their outstanding MOBA RTS, Final Assault. That said, the studio was also responsible for the seminal N64 classic Turok, so there's still the spark of hope that Primal Hunt will see a VR revival of a classic part of my childhood. Well, we have the developers, and we have the dinosaurs, but did they deliver the Jurassic dream? Grab your bows and join me in the long grass as we hunt for VR excellence. With no need for a heavy, story-based preamble, the player is swiftly introduced into the world of Primal Hunt as an elite big-game hunter visiting a futuristic game park, with the express purpose of murdering prehistoric animals for sport. By way of a fancy neurolinking process, gamers inhabit a cybernetic hunting suit, specifically designed for the rigors of hunting the biggest of big game. Primal Hunt then provides you with a progression of hunts, pitting your skills against dinosaurs of ever-increasing ferocity. Not satisfied with just scaling up the size, quantity, or threat level of the dinosaurs, each dino type also has a tiered level system of bullet spongery, designed to increase the challenge. Like so much of the rest of the game, this tactic feels like it was an easy way for the developers to stretch out the campaign, but we'll get onto that later. Should you find yourself getting weary of killing mere dinosaurs, then fear not. The team at Primal Hunt have been good enough to equip many of your reptilian foes with an assortment of impossible-seeming tech upgrades. Things like razor legs, sniper rifles, and missiles are bolted onto your once-extinct fodder to make history's deadliest predators even more threatening. It is, quite frankly, ridiculous, but in the context of the game, it actually works and is worth a laugh if nothing else. Each hunt you undertake is broken into 3 sections, split up by having to find and examine clues. These clues are entirely unnecessary. They really just serve as waypoints to section off the quest and give you mini missions to achieve along the way. As the hunts progress, these challenges get progressively harder, going from killing 1 or 2 low-level enemies to navigating raptor-infested areas in order to proceed to the next zone. You can choose to brute force your way if you wish, laying waste to anything cold-blooded along the way, but there are also stealth mechanics that allow you to hide in the bushes to avoid combat or better position yourself for a kill. With the limited ammo available, these tactics can often make the difference between life or death. There are also roosts or towers spread around the map that can be traversed with a grappling arrow, which can be life-saving if you are pursued and outnumbered. While the stealth elements can be tense and challenging, they frequently result in your final quarry being that much harder to take down, as you are swarmed by all the lesser dinos that you previously avoided. As such, unless expressly forbidden by the mission brief, it's usually best just to shoot first and ask questions later. Outside of the trappings of the hunt, Primal Hunt is primarily a bow shooter, and unfortunately falls a little flat on that front. It's not that the bow mechanics are bad, per se, it's just that they have been done so much better before, so if you're an enthusiast of bows in VR, it can feel a little disappointing. The physics and the fall of the arrows feel slightly off, and adjusting your aim takes a little time. The sound effects and animations that correspond with a successful hit lack weight and really struggle to give a satisfying sense of impact. Games like In-Death Unchained have demonstrated to a gold standard how these elements can come together to resonate in an impactful and satisfying way. By comparison, Primal Hunt's Archery just feels weak and arcadey, and I know this may seem nitpicky, but in a game where the majority of what you do is shoot creatures with a bow and arrow, it really robs the experience of what should be one of its great satisfactions. All criticisms aside, there are still some really engaging moments on offer in Primal Hunt. Attempting to track an enhanced Gallimimus while being pursued by a pack of raptors with sniper rifles was an experience to say the least. Likewise, hiding in a copse of Paleolithic ferns while a gigantic T-Rex roared and lumbered past was also completely noteworthy, as was running through a swamp while trying to get away from a charging Dimetrodon. In fact, Primal Hunt's biggest asset is the sheer scale of the beasts that inhabit the world, and it's hard not to be a little intimidated sharing the map with them. When it comes to content, Phaser Lock have definitely gone for the Brachiosaurus-sized portion. However, it really feels like a quantity over quality kind of affair. Everywhere you look, there are things to do with a good range of biomes to explore, dinosaurs to hunt, and even different hunt types to spice up the gameplay. All that said though, it often feels like the game gets mired in repetitions or slight variations on a theme, a fact that is compounded by the infinitesimally small rewards gained for completion. There is a fairly deep skill progression tree on offer in Primal Hunt, as well as a decent range of unlockable traps and arrow types. It's really quite good, if you have the patience to get into it. I think it's fair to state that my first impressions of Primal Hunt were not good. In fact, they were downright terrible. Everything that is fun about Primal Hunt is hidden behind the game's progression system, and this takes a dangerously long time to reveal itself. In fact, overall I would say that pacing is my main vexation with the game, far outweighing any of the gripes that I've mentioned before as an impediment to continued enjoyment. After 7 hours in the game, I've unlocked a pitifully small arsenal of perks, weapons, and embellishments with which to further my hunt, despite having completed a reasonable number of hunts now. This gatekeeping-through-grind approach is annoying at first and gets worse over a longer time, having a real chance of putting new players off before the gameplay starts to evolve. The skill tree, for example, offers such mighty boosts as 2% gain in stamina in exchange for your hard-earned in-game currency. It's maddening! The gains are so minute as to be imperceptible, and you just have to assume that if you grind long enough, you'll eventually see some results. All of this combines to give the impression of a game that started with a 20-hour campaign as an initial product feature, and filler content was just stacked on top of each other until it eventually lumbered across the finish line. Visually, the team at Phaser Lock have done a decent job, although it is not without its small share of charming jank. The environments are impressively large, just like the creatures that inhabit them. But in order to achieve this within the quest's obvious limitations, there is a liberal usage of a fog palette to hide the draw distance. This works well in the swampy areas, but it feels a little out of place in brightly lit biomes bathed in clear blue skies. There are frequent issues with dinosaurs forgetting their animation cycles and moving through the environment like a toy pulled along on a string, as well as the odd upside-down pterodon just to keep things amusing. I also had a repeated issue where my arrow hand would shift in front of my face, making it difficult to aim. There is a chance, though, that this may have been a tracking issue caused by my play space more than a graphical hitch. Other than these issues, though, the art style is coherent and well-suited to the game's tone, and it does an adequate job of imparting the awe expected from moving amongst so large a scale. The sound design feels deliberately understated, with the player seemingly encouraged to immerse in the sounds of the environment that they are stalking through. Dinosaur sounds boom and shriek as you would expect, and the overall soundscape creates an ambience that complements the gameplay. Aside from the impotent weapon impact sounds, of course, it is nonetheless a little vanilla, and I think there's a missed opportunity for creating a deeper sense of tension. Had Primal Hunt seen the Dino-themed equivalent of Cosmodread's outstanding audio work, the experience would have been considerably more immersive. Primal Hunt is a reasonable attempt to fill a dinosaur-sized niche in the quest library that does several things well. However, marred by mediocre bow mechanics and pacing issues that spread the fun too thinly to be properly enjoyed, the game unfortunately falls somewhat short of its potential. With just a little more polish to a few key design elements, Primal Hunt could still improve over time. But as it stands, it showcases that even in Dino Land, bigger is not always better. Despite those criticisms, there are still plenty of moments dotted throughout the game that build an immersive tension that briefly capitalizes on the wonder of walking amongst dinosaurs and the terror of being chased by them. Overall, it's no final assault, but it does have cybernetically enhanced T-Rexes, so there's always that. 6. Fossilised. If you're enjoying the channel and would like to stay up to date with all the news, reviews, and the occasional interview, click subscribe now.
Footprints, depth, spread, and shape indicate element.